47 Chinese stealth drones penetrate Guam's defense perimeter. America unleashes technology nobody saw coming. November 2025, 2:47 a.m. local time. Andersen Air Force Base, Guam. Radar screens across the island fortress lit up with ghost signatures. Not engine noise, not heat signatures, just faint electronic whispers that shouldn't exist. 47 GJ-11 Sharp Sword stealth drones had crossed into the 200-mile exclusion zone, each carrying reconnaissance pods worth $12 million, each designed to map every defense installation on America's westernmost military stronghold. The stakes? Guam hosts 170,000 U.S. citizens, 6,000 active-duty military personnel, $2 billion in B-2 Spirit bombers, the entire 7th Fleet's forward logistics. If China could blind Guam, they could own the Pacific. This wasn't a probe. This was a declaration. What's your weapon of choice for countering stealth threats? Type A for electronic warfare. Type B for directed energy weapons. Chinese military planners had spent 18 months preparing this operation. Codename, Shadow Veil. The GJ-11 represented their crown jewel. Flying wing design. Radar cross-section smaller than a sparrow. Cruising altitude of 43,000 feet. Speed, Mach 0.8. Range, 2,400 miles without refueling. Each drone cost $67 million to develop. The production run included 200 units, 47 represented just the opening wave. Their confidence came from recent successes. In September, 3 GJ-11s had mapped Taiwan's entire eastern coastline. 0 detection, 0 intercepts. The Taiwanese military never knew they were there until satellite photos revealed the flight paths 3 days later. In October, 5 more penetrated Japanese airspace near Okinawa. The Japanese Self-Defense Force scrambled F-15s. The drones simply climbed to 48,000 feet and disappeared into the stratosphere. No radar lock, no visual confirmation. Gone. Beijing believed Guam would be the same. Their intelligence indicated U.S. radar systems couldn't track stealth profiles below a certain threshold. Their signals intelligence suggested American early warning networks had gaps at specific altitudes. Their analysis showed response times averaging 12 to 15 minutes. Plenty of time for the drones to complete mapping runs and extract. But what they didn't know was that the United States had been waiting. For 6 months, U.S. Space Force had tracked every GJ-11 test flight from orbit. Infrared satellites recorded launch signatures from Milan Air Base in Xinjiang. Signals intelligence captured control frequencies. The National Security Agency had penetrated the communication protocols. Every weakness, every vulnerability, every single flight characteristic was cataloged in a database at Peterson Space Force Base in Colorado. The Americans knew the drones were coming. They knew the probable launch date. They even knew the likely approach vectors. What China was about to encounter wasn't Guam's standard air defense. It was a technological trap 18 months in the making. At Andersen Air Force Base, Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Chen commanded the 36th Air Defense Artillery Brigade. Her unit had received unusual equipment deliveries starting in August. Shipping containers marked only with alphanumeric codes. Installation crews with security clearances requiring presidential approval. The hardware inside represented the most classified air defense system in the American arsenal. The SEQ-5 Laser Weapon System, but not the naval version currently deployed on destroyers. This was the Mark 7 variant. Power output, 450 kilowatts. Effective range against aerial targets, 27 miles. Target acquisition time, 0.3 seconds. The system could track and engage 200 simultaneous targets. It ran silent. No radar emissions, no infrared signature. Just optical sensors scanning the sky with artificial intelligence assistance. 3 systems had been installed around Anderson, one covering the northern approach, one protecting the eastern sector, one guarding the southern corridor. Together, they created an invisible cage, and the AI controlling them had been fed every piece of data on the GJ-11. Flight profiles, heat signatures, even the slight atmospheric distortion the drones created at high altitude. At 2:47 a.m., the first GJ-11 crossed the 200-mile line. The SEQ-5 Northern Unit detected it immediately, not through radar, through atmospheric analysis. The drone's passage created minute pressure changes, barely detectable, but the laser system's optical sensors registered the distortion at 187 miles. Lock achieved at 2:48 a.m. The AI calculated trajectory, wind compensation, target velocity, engagement solution ready. Lieutenant Colonel Chen received the alert on her command screen. 47 targets, staggered formation, altitude range from 41,000 to 47,000 feet, speed consistent with GJ-11 specifications. She had authorization to engage at her discretion. Presidential findings signed 3 weeks prior. Rules of engagement, clear and unambiguous. Any unidentified aircraft penetrating the defense zone would be considered hostile. She gave the order at 2:51 a.m. Engage all targets. The northern laser system fired first. No sound, no visible beam in the darkness. Just invisible energy traveling at the speed of light. The targeting computer selected the lead drone. Range, 164 miles. The 450 kilowatt beam struck the GJ-11's left wing root. The composite material absorbed the energy for 1.7 seconds. Then, thermal failure. The wing structure softened, warped. The aerodynamic forces ripped it apart at 640 miles per hour. The drone tumbled, 33,000 feet, 20,000, 10,000. Impact in the Philippine Sea at 2:53 a.m. Total engagement time, 2 minutes 4 seconds. Cost to destroy, approximately $14 in electricity. The Eastern Laser System engaged 6 targets simultaneously. The AI distributed beam time based on threat priority, 2 seconds per target. Enough to achieve structural failure, enough to guarantee kills. 6 Chinese drones fell from the sky in a span of 18 seconds. Debris scattered across 40 square miles of ocean. The Chinese drone operators in Fujian province knew something was wrong at 2:54 a.m. Telemetry from 7 aircraft simply stopped. No warnings, no error messages. The data links just went dead. They attempted to contact the remaining drones. 31 still flying, 28, 22. The numbers dropped like stones. Panic in the command center. Orders to abort. Signals sent to turn the remaining aircraft back toward Chinese airspace. But the laser systems were faster than human reaction time. The SEQ-5 Southern Unit had acquired 15 targets. Engagement sequence initiated. The AI prioritized based on range and threat assessment. Closest targets first. The beam swept across the sky like an invisible scythe. By 3:02 a.m., 43 GJ-11 drones had been destroyed. 4 remained. These had been flying at the formation's extreme edges. Maximum altitude, maximum range. The laser systems tracked them, but held fire. These 4 were allowed to escape. Deliberately. Lieutenant Colonel Chen's orders specified letting some survive. The Chinese needed to know what happened. They needed to understand the message. If you're enjoying this deep dive into modern warfare, take a moment to hit that subscribe button. The 4 surviving drones returned to Chinese airspace at 4:17 a.m. Their reconnaissance data showed nothing. No radar emissions, no missile launches, no visual confirmation of what destroyed the others. The gaps in their formation told a story of surgical precision, of technology that operated beyond their detection capabilities, of an adversary that had been waiting with capabilities they hadn't anticipated. Beijing's response came in stages. First, denial. Official statements claimed the drones had experienced technical failures, navigation errors, software glitches. But their military planners knew better. 43 simultaneous failures? Statistically impossible. Something had killed those aircraft, something invisible, something devastatingly effective. The second stage was investigation. Chinese intelligence agencies went into overdrive. Satellite imagery of Guam was analyzed frame by frame. Signal intercepts were reviewed. No unusual radar emissions detected. No missile launches observed. The Americans had engaged without leaving electronic fingerprints. That narrowed the options considerably. The conclusion came within 72 hours. Directed energy weapons, laser systems, probably the SEQ-5 based on engagement range and kill rates. But that system was supposed to be naval only. Shore-based deployment represented a massive leap in American defensive capabilities. A leap that rendered Chinese stealth drone technology obsolete overnight. The cost calculation was brutal. 43 drones at $67 million each in development costs. Total loss, $2.88 billion in research and hardware. Plus the 18 months of planning. Plus the revelation that their most advanced stealth technology could be defeated. Plus the psychological impact on military planners who had believed the GJ-11 gave them an edge. Don't miss what comes next. Make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an analysis like this. The United States made their response public on November 17th. A Pentagon press conference that lasted 17 minutes. The spokesman confirmed the engagement, confirmed the 43 kills, confirmed the use of directed energy weapons. No apologies, no diplomatic softening, just facts delivered with calculated precision. The message was clear. The Pacific defense perimeter was no longer vulnerable to stealth penetration. Any attempt to probe American installations would be met with immediate and overwhelming response. The technological advantage China thought they possessed had been neutralized, and the United States was willing to demonstrate that capability publicly. What would you have done when those drones entered your airspace? Comment your answer below. The implications rippled across the Pacific. Taiwan's defense ministry requested information on the SEQ-5 system. Japan initiated discussions about technology transfer. South Korea expressed interest in coastal defense applications. Australia wanted units for Darwin and Tyndall Air Base. The American defensive umbrella had just gotten significantly more capable. China's response was a fundamental reassessment of their drone warfare strategy. The GJ-11 program was immediately reviewed. Engineers were tasked with developing countermeasures, reflective coatings, faster speeds, lower altitudes. But every solution came with trade-offs. Lower altitude meant more vulnerability to traditional air defense. Higher speed meant reduced range and endurance. Reflective coatings added weight and cost. The reality was uncomfortable. The technological gap they thought they were closing had just widened dramatically. American military investment in directed energy weapons had been dismissed as experimental, as impractical, as years away from operational deployment. Guam proved those assumptions catastrophically wrong. The strategic calculus shifted. Chinese war planners had counted on stealth drones for reconnaissance ahead of any Pacific conflict. Those drones would map American defenses, identify weak points, guide missile strikes. Without that capability, any military operation became exponentially more risky. You couldn't strike what you couldn't see, and now you couldn't see without being destroyed. The economic impact hit Chinese defense contractors. The GJ-11 production line was suspended pending the strategic review. That meant 2,400 workers furloughed. Supply chain contracts canceled. Research funding redirected. The ripple effects touched 17 provinces and 43 companies, all because 43 drones fell into the Pacific Ocean. But the deepest impact was psychological. For 3 years, Chinese military leadership had believed they were narrowing the technology gap with the United States. Hypersonic missiles, stealth drones, aircraft carriers. Each system represented billions in investment and national pride. Guam demonstrated that American defensive technology had advanced further than anyone realized, that the gap wasn't narrowing, it was widening. This kind of detailed tactical breakdown takes hours to research. Subscribe to help us keep making them. The lessons from Guam spread beyond the Pacific. Russian military observers noted the engagement data. Their own stealth drone programs came under review. Iranian planners studying drone warfare against Gulf targets reconsidered their strategies. North Korea's UAV development faced new questions about viability. The age of stealth drone dominance had lasted exactly 5 years. From the first successful test flights to Guam's demonstration that directed energy weapons could defeat them at scale, 5 years of technological advantage erased in 14 minutes of engagement. That's the pace of modern warfare. That's the cost of miscalculation. For the United States, Guam represented validation of a 2-decade investment in directed energy technology. The SEQ-5 program had cost $14 billion from initial research to operational deployment. Critics had called it wasteful, science fiction, a boondoggle that would never work in combat conditions. November 14th silenced those critics permanently. The system's performance exceeded even optimistic projections. The engagement demonstrated reliability, precision, scalability. Most importantly, it demonstrated that laser weapons weren't experimental anymore. They were operational. They were lethal. They were rewriting the rules of air defense. 3 additional SEQ-5 systems were ordered for Pacific installations within a week. Okinawa, Diego Garcia, the Philippines. Each installation expanded the invisible cage. Each system represented another 200 target engagement capability. The cumulative effect was a defensive network that made stealth penetration virtually impossible. China's 47 drone incursion had one final effect. It accelerated American defensive technology deployment by 18 months. Systems that were scheduled for 2026 rollout were fast-tracked to 2025. Research programs received emergency funding increases. The Pacific Command's modernization timeline compressed dramatically. Beijing had wanted to test American defenses. They got their answer, but the cost of that knowledge was devastating. 43 destroyed drones, $3 billion in losses, strategic plans requiring complete revision, and the certain knowledge that their most advanced technology couldn't penetrate American defenses. Was this Chinese probe a strategic miscalculation or necessary intelligence gathering? Leave your thoughts in the comments. The skies over Guam returned to normal on November 15th. Tourist flights resumed, commercial traffic continued, but 3 SEQ-5 systems remained operational. Scanning, waiting. The optical sensors tracked every aircraft within 200 miles. The AI analyzed every target. The invisible cage stayed active. China never attempted another stealth drone incursion near Guam. The lesson was learned. The price was paid. The message was received. In modern warfare, technological superiority isn't just about what you build. It's about what you deploy. It's about being ready when your adversary makes their move. It's about turning their probe into their education. Guam taught that lesson on November 14, 2024. 47 drones entered American airspace. 43 never returned. 4 survivors carried home a message their commanders didn't want to hear. The Pacific Defense Perimeter holds, the technology works, the United States is ready. And that readiness comes at a cost adversaries cannot afford to pay. Not in money, not in time, not in strategic position. The invisible cage over Guam isn't just about lasers and targeting systems. It's about the will to invest, the patience to develop, the determination to deploy capabilities that others dismiss as impossible. Every nation watching drew their own conclusions. Some accelerated their own defensive research. Some reconsidered offensive planning. Some realized that the balance of power in the Pacific had shifted more dramatically than headlines suggested. Because when 43 stealth drones fall from the sky in 14 minutes, the message isn't subtle. The message is absolute. The message is that American military technology remains generations ahead. That investment in future capabilities pays dividends when adversaries probe your defenses. That preparation meets opportunity with devastating effectiveness. If you made it this far, you're the core of our community. Like, subscribe, and hit that bell. The wreckage of those 43 GJ-11 drones still rests on the Pacific floor. 2 miles down, scattered across 40 square miles, Chinese salvage ships searched for weeks. They recovered fragments, pieces of composite wing, sections of fuselage, enough to confirm the thermal damage, enough to understand what killed them. But they couldn't recover the advantage they lost. They couldn't reclaim the strategic position they gambled away. They couldn't undo the demonstration that their most advanced technology had met its counter. And in command centers from Beijing to Moscow to Tehran, military planners updated their assessments. The American defensive umbrella just got significantly more lethal. The cost of probing it just increased dramatically. The risk-reward calculation for future incursions just shifted permanently. Guam stands ready. The lasers wait. The cage remains invisible, but absolute. And 47 ghosts in the electronic warfare spectrum remind every potential adversary. Test American defenses at your peril. The response will be swift. The technology will be devastating. The message will be clear. What's your take on directed energy weapons changing Pacific defense? What other military technologies should we cover next? Your engagement directly shapes what we cover next. Drop a comment and subscribe. This is the kind of deep analysis that matters. This is where strategy meets reality. This is where preparation meets execution. The Pacific is watching. The technology is real. The advantage is American.